Hope everyone's here. So like I said, this is my first webinar, so please bear with me on how to use this and with screen share and everything like that, but I'll try and make it as best as possible. I hope you can hear me very clearly. So today I'm going to be talking about the pelvis during riding and bike fitting. Now, I do know I got some teammates also watching this. I also heard Andre Geipel will be here too. So hi, Andre, if you're somewhere there. And I know there's some people that don't have LEOMO, so I'm going to try and do just a brush up on LEOMO, the MPIs and everything before we get straight into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show basically what LEOMO is in very, very short. It's not just about bike fitting, joint angles. So LEOMO is actually about motion. So I'm going to show you, I did a bike fit the other day with Victor Campanarts, and just do a share. Okay, so with LEOMO, it's actually the motion we are doing, and we also do angles of like the leg angle and the foot angle, but I just want to show you here. So here's a clip of Victor pedaling, and just follow my mouse. This line here is the video. Now I'm going to move the video to here. This is the top of the stroke. You see it's at 12 o'clock, and we're going to move forwards to the bottom of the stroke. And he has a very good movement here of motion. Now this is just using one sensor, which is sorry, play it again. So this is using the sensor on the leg, and it's the accelerometer sensor on the Z axis. So all we're measuring here is the acceleration of one sensor on his leg on the downstroke. So once again, we'll go to the top stroke, and you see this line here. This is the motion of his leg going down. So a typical, I'll just pause it, a typical bike fitting, if what they do measure is that more of the ranges, so this is your top and this is the bottom, but we actually measure what happens in between. I just want to throw that out there. Now this interface here is the LVS, if some people are unaware of that. This is just from, like I said before, that's just the x-axis, and this is very in depth. This is very in depth into how the LEOMO is. So what we're going to talk about is how we get that information, and basically what we do is we measure this with these devices. So here you have this is the Type R. This is the first system that they have, and I hope you can see this well. So this is the Type R, very slick device, and this is the computer that reads all that data. We have the Type S, which is launching very soon. So this is the Type S, runs on an Android platform. Very good. Runs on Android platform. I was in China last week, and I used it as a hotspot. I threw in a SIM card there. I could do the Zoom webinar on this. It's pretty cool. It's got all the apps and everything. It's very good. Now, some people have asked me why, okay, it's on an Android device. Why can't we just have the app on the Android phone? The reason being is the Type S has an extra chip in it, for an extra Bluetooth chip in it to handle the bandwidth. And just a size comparison, this is my phone and this is the Type S. So it's actually, it's great to put in your pocket when you're riding. I actually really like it. Now, the key to both these devices are the sensors. So these are the sensors, comes in a little cube. As soon as you take out, lights up. And these sensors we place on the body that measures everything. So like I showed you before with that LVS of Victor, so it's got an accelerometer and a gyroscope in there, and everything is measured through these two sensors, and they get placed in your body. So what I'll do is I'll give a very quick brief rundown. Now I know a lot of you do know this, and I'm just going to go through the LEOMO's MPIs. So what I showed you before in the LVS with Victor's, it's reading the data from the sensors directly in the raw format, and LEOMO's got their own MPIs. So we'll just get into the MPIs very, very quickly. I'll just do a screen share. Very good. So the sensors, the traditional places where you place the sensors are your torso, sacrum, thighs, and feet. Now, they have one of the MPIs also is dead spot score, which we won't be talking about here, but it's that's one of the MPIs. It measures just the dead spot scores in your foot pedaling. Some other ones you should be aware of is your foot angle range. So this is your maximum angle to your minimum angle and the range of movement in your foot. We also have your quarter one FAR, your foot angle range. So that's the motion movement from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, which should be as low as possible to be the most stable. Okay, and then we have pelvic angle. Now, I want you guys to have a good understanding of the next three because this is what we'll be talking about the most in this webinar. So this is your pelvic angle. It's very simple. It's just the angle of your pelvis. Now we have the pelvic rock. Now the pelvic rock is, so you have your pelvic, and this is the movement of your pelvic in the neutral position, okay? And then you have the pelvic rotation. So this is in this position here. And you have to imagine when you're on the bike, you're not actually in neutral position. The pelvis is actually tilted forwards. And because the pelvis is tilted forwards, then the rock's this way and the rotation is this way. So it does change a little, it does get a little confusing. Now the torso is exactly the same. You have the torso angle, and you can move a sensor from your thigh and put it on your sternum. And then you have your torso rock, it's exactly the same as the pelvic, and then your pelvic rotation. Okay, so now that you have a good understanding of that, I hope. Sorry about this. Now, that's the MPIs that LEOMO does. And just want to show you the reason why, to me, why it's so important, these sensors over a traditional system is, I'm just going to bring up a video now. And this video here is LBS with myself. And what I want you to see here with this video, this is me just riding. Okay, so here you see this is the pelvic tilted as far back as possible. And now I move the pelvic as far forwards as possible. And now this is sort of the sweet spot. So what we want to do is to get a really good position for the pelvic is we want to have the glutes and the hamstrings we want to stretch them a little to lengthen them to have the optimal range. And for me, one of the best ways for me to find out this optimal range is when I find out what when I do like a back flex, and I find out the maximum angle here, and then I find out my minimum angle as far forwards, and I just try to go in the middle and then a little bit forwards. And to me, this is the optimal position for your hips. And you can truly measure this with the LEOMO and just, one sensor. So with this movement here, we're able to determine exactly what's a good position. And what I've tried to do in this demonstration here is I've tried to keep the exact same angle of my shoulder because I just want to show something a bit afterwards. So as you saw that, I tried to keep the exact same position on angle because a lot of systems, what they do is when you look at the systems like the bike fitting systems where they put the points on you and they try and measure it. The problem that I find with this is it's actually it's not so accurate in a sense because if you look at the example I gave before, this is as far back I can move my pelvis as possible. And I put these marks, on the, just where the logos are, for example. on my shorts and on my knee, try to get it as exact as possible. And this is, as you see here, this is as far forward as possible. And there's very little percentage difference in change. Now with the LEOMO, we detect it far better. So you can see there's 56 degrees here, and there's actually 72.9 degrees there. And then my optimal position here is about 68 degrees, like this. And when you have a look at my back, so there's actually 17 vertebrae here. And the problem with traditional systems is when they put the markers on and use like a 3D capturing system, is they can't actually read every single measurement in the back, and they determine your pelvic angle based on your shoulder, your hip, and your knee. And I'm not a huge fan of this because you can see quite clearly that just from these three positions, and I've exaggerated this so you guys can see it very well, that it's not a true angle. And with the LEOMO, we actually show it really well. Now, with that bear in mind, the reason why we actually look at the pelvic is because what we want to do is we have a sensor at the back, and we measure the rotation and the pelvic rock with the sensor on the back when a rider rides. And obviously what you want from the rider is to be able to sit as high as possible on the bike. And what actually happens is when a rider sits a bit low on the bike, he doesn't have a very stable pelvic. And as you try and move the seat up higher and higher, because what you want to do is you want to have an optimal range of, obviously, in your leg angle range, which we measure also. And you want to go as high as possible until you have movement in the pelvic, which you can find that out with the pelvic rock and the pelvic rotation. So what I'd like to do on the bike with myself, or if I'm measuring other riders, is basically just get their position and slowly move up the seat higher, 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 and until the pelvic rock and rotation starts to move, especially the pelvic rotation, then I just put the seat a little bit lower, and that's the most stable position that that rider has. Because what tends to happen is when the seat is too high, then the rider tries to reach down for the pedals, and you'll see a movement in the foot angle range, and also you might see, because first the hip moves and the foot is trying to reach, and then you might get a difference in the leg angle ranges because a rider will try and reach the pedals when the seat is too high. So using the pelvic is a very good MPI to use with the pelvic rotation to actually see if the seat is too high and if the rider is stable enough on the bike. Also, there are some riders like with Victor Campanarts, for example, he is extremely planted. Like his position on the bike is, he has really good core, he trains this every day, and because of this, you can really see that in his pelvic rotation, he's very stable on the bike. I'll just give you a quick video of the numbers that I showed before with me riding on the bike with the three different pelvic positions. You see this, for people that don't know, you actually see this in real time. So if you have the Type R or the Type S, you actually see that movement directly. So this is the Type R, and I'm not riding here. I'm just doing the three movements. So I've got a very steep angle on my pelvic angle, and I'm just changing my hips a little, and you see it in real time. And for a rider, when you give them, what their optimal position is, they can sort of focus on that. And okay, at the end, I start pedaling, and all the other metrics come alive. So we've done some tests, and what I like to show is, this is a particular rider I tested, and these values here is what we did was, just bring it up. Okay, so I did a series of tests with Victor, in fact, and he has his baseline. So this is his baseline here, and we just move the seat down and up from his baseline, just to try and work out, okay, what is his optimal position? Is his seat height in a good position? Can he go higher? Can he go lower? Now, this is the pelvic rock, and this is a very good number. So he is very good in his core and stability. So all these numbers are good, but we want to optimize it to the maximum. And you can see his base is very good, and okay, 2.5 higher. There's a very, very slight difference. Like normally when you ride, you can already see here, the minimum and the maximum is a huge variation when you're training. And all these numbers are very close to each other. So we're just nitpicking here. But it's interesting when we actually have a look at the pelvic rock again. And when we go 2.5 millimeters higher, we actually see a good number here, 1.6. Okay, we see it here also, so it's a bit of a change, but this could be his sweet spot. So just looking at these numbers here, and what we did is we did another, this is with the seat forwards, and also 2.5, sorry about my graph below. So this position we tried with Victor is 2.5 forwards, and sorry, 10 mil forwards and 2.5 higher. So this is going a little bit higher and a bit more forwards. And for me, I like to think this is his optimal range. And just to go one step further is when you go too high or too low, sometimes you get a separation of your legs. This is your leg angle range here. Now, I've just put an Excel file and made this graph to make it easier for you guys to see it here for this webinar. But you see these numbers directly on your type R and your type S. And yeah, you don't need to create an Excel file like this. Now, this is your leg angle range. And the ideal place for your leg angle range is to have both your left leg, yellow is left, and your right leg as close as possible. And you can see that he's got a bit of a difference, and his base that he had at the start was one of the best until we went a bit higher. And what happens is when we went a bit higher, that his legs really get symmetrical. And when we just go that tad little higher, and you saw previously that his pelvic rock increased and his legs separated. So what actually happens there is actually reaching down. He's probably reaching down more with this one. And this one here is minimizing. So with this here, I'll just take away a screen share. So, all these questions. So the goal of to fit a rider based on his pelvis, is he's going to be pretty stable on the bike if he's in an okay position. Now, just want to throw this out there. I'm not using the system here to determine, what is better, if he's to moving forwards, moving back. Victor is a very good cyclist, obviously, and I don't want to play around too much with him. You have some people that, they want to go all the way forwards and want to go all the way back, and I'm not using the data here to change his position. I'm trying to use the data here from the LEOMO to optimize the positions you want. So if you're a bike fitter and you have your own theories of where you should sit on the bike, then you don't need this system here to, it's not going to, you can still have your theories and what you believe, and this will say how optimal that position is. So with Victor's current position, we'll be able to get just a little bit extra out of him just by optimizing his seat a little bit forwards, a little bit higher. His leg angle ranges are very good. They're very symmetrical. They're increased a little from his base position. And if we go a little bit higher, then the legs separated because he's trying to reach down. And we've seen that with the pelvic rock. And what we've done is we've verified it with the leg angle range. I did a little test on myself also, and this was done in Manchester, and I'll just share it. Here is, this is myself with pelvic rock, and this is the saddle going forwards and back. So now this bike that I did this test on wasn't my bike, so we tried to set up as best as possible, and we did some pretty dramatic changes. So my base is what we thought that was the best fitted, and when I had the seat further back, yeah, there was, I had to sort of reach more, and when I had the seat more forwards, I sort of had the more optimal range, as you can see, the 2.1 and 2.5. Also, the 50 was, I'm very comfortable with my seat very far forwards, and I do have better movement. So we can see with the simple 5 little test done here that I actually had better pelvic rotation if I was sitting more forwards. Now, this is a different test we did with the seat. Now, I'm a huge fan of having your seat slightly tilted because this actually helps your pelvic rotate more forwards. And what you see here is that when the nose of the saddle goes a little bit up, then you're sort of pinching the pelvis rotated a little back. And then you're trying to reach for the pedals again. I know for myself, if I have the saddle pointed further up, it actually, I feel like it really lengthens the seat height. So, and we did a few dramatic ones, and you can really see it just gets worse and worse the higher you go. Now, this is the pelvic rotation. This is almost exactly the same. Verified the first test that we did with the pelvic rock. So the baseline I thought was pretty good from comparing my old bike to my new bike. And just moving it further forwards, it improved with the pelvic rotation. And a little bit too far forwards, then, okay, the pelvic rotation just got worse. So I hope that makes it pretty clear. Today's webinar is only meant to be on the pelvis. So, and I'm sorry about the webinar with changing screens and everything. So I'll just try and recap a lot of things. So with the LEOMO, they have their own MPIs, and we spoke about the pelvic rotation, pelvic rock. Okay, I just got some, okay, I shouldn't read the question. And the ideal thing is you can have your own theories where you should have your bike position to be, if you want to be more forwards, if you want to be further back. But we can just verify that with the pelvic rotation on the pelvic rock. And the ideal thing to do is, if you're unsure, so with Victor, what I did is in China, I did basically, I had his base position and I checked 5 positions. So from his base position, went a little bit up, and then from base position, a little bit down, a little bit down. It's about 2.5 mil each way. Did the exact same thing with the seat back, and the exact same thing with seat forwards. So we got 15 different measurements, very easy, very fast. Didn't even look at the data when we were recording it. Just got on the bike, ride, 30 seconds, head down a little bit harder, see how it changes with power, and then change all the positions, record them all, and then just review the data. And then afterwards, I went to his place in Belgium and said, okay, this is what's optimal. Let's optimize that. And we change a little and we see the numbers directly. If you don't have a good position, like Victor at the start with, then yes, you would you probably go more dramatic. You see how the pelvic rocks. Now, every rider has their own movement. There's some guys that are more flexible, some guys that are better core. And what you want to do is you will see a pattern that where a rider will have a rotation at one point and you really plateau out, come high. Now, he might have a high rotation, which is fine. If he has a high rotation, that's him. But you've got to find out when he actually breaks. And when he breaks, move this out a little bit down or further back or further forwards and find his sweet spot. And once you find the sweet spot and his pelvic is as stable as possible, you've probably seen another, yeah, so, okay, so I'll just end it there. Once again, I'm really sorry about the webinar, how I've done this with the screen sharing, but we'll try and answer some of the questions. Okay, so I'm pretty sure everyone can see these questions. Okay, thanks, Brian. So what I do is I'll try and answer some of the questions. I heard, okay, so what intensities like to test since your body changed a little bit different? That's a good point Joseph has made up. And I'll just show one thing very quickly. Things change when you do tests, you should do them at all different intensities. And the reason being is, I'll just show my screen share. Okay, so here's a video of myself, and what I'm doing is, this is the pelvic rock. Let's move this out of the way. Okay, so, sorry, this is pelvic rotation. I'm only showing one measurement here, just to make it clear. So I'm really spinning at the start, as you can see. So my cadence is really good. Okay, this is the line, the gear line. So here I'm spinning really good. I've changed the gear on the SRM bike, and now it's a harder gear. This is way over my limit. And you see it up doing slow motion, change the gear. And now there's a lot more movement in my hips, and the LEOMO shows it directly. So when you do a test, doing these tests, this is one of the great things of the LEOMO, that you can actually go outside and ride in real world environments. You should always do it in the power that you train at, race at. So what I do with myself, get someone on the bike, just ride, see how his pelvic reacts. Okay, it's good position, add some intensity. So for Victor, what we did is we put him to 450 watts. That's a bit over his limit. And then we see how the pelvic reacts, because that's what you want. You want to see what the rider can do in race mode. Also, things you do notice is when a guy or female goes into race mode, and what they do is sometimes they slide a bit more forwards on the saddle, and this actually changes your pelvic angle. So you should do test, obviously, when they're riding easy and actually the intensity that they want to be good at. With the time trial, it's very easy because the rider generally rides at 1 wattage for the whole time trial. But on the road bike, it's always good to do ranges. What I like to do for myself is a few strength blocks with 50 cadence, for example, and this so just try not to break someone, but more to see where their weak point is. Okay, just to answer some questions, other questions regarding the SRM cycle you're on. Examples, have you done a comparison LVS, force development, and SRM torque analysis? No, I haven't. So the question is regarding the SRM cycle you're on, and the example you use, have you done a comparison of LVS, force development, and SRM torque analysis? No, I haven't. The SRM bike that I have, I actually can't do an SRM torque analysis. It's just a normal indoor train. It's not the top of the range one. Regarding multiple camera angles, this is something we can't work in the future. Okay, I see that Josep's answering some of the questions. Okay, so one question is where to put the sensors for dead spot score. Now, how it works is it doesn't, the actual does more towards toes versus heels make a difference? No, when you're doing, for your dead spot score, you have a carbon sole and your shoe shouldn't flex. So your shoe moves as one whole. So if you put the sensor at the end or if you could mount on your heel, it would not make a difference because it measures the whole foot. So dead spot score will not change depending on where you put the sensor. Okay, this is a good question. What pelvic angle should someone shoot for? So like I did in my video before where I showed my maximum range and my minimum, how far I can go backwards with flexing the back and how far the pelvic can go forwards. What you should aim for is a little bit more than tilting forwards. So from your neutral, your pelvic should be in a neutral position. So obviously not back, not forwards, go neutral position and just slightly forwards. That's the optimal position. That way you'll lengthen your glutes, your hamstrings, and this is a good tension relation to the glutes and hamstrings. And this would be far better for firing the muscles if it's in that position. Okay, does the pelvic subside other drivers such as balancing load on the tube? That's fine. Thank you for the comment. See that is answering some questions too. Just want to touch on some of the MPIs. So the MPIs I went through before with LEOMO's one, we're actually developing new MPIs also. So the system is the MPIs I said before is not, they're the MPIs, but it's not limited. When you have the LBS, which is the live video sync with the iPad, then you see all the raw data from the sensors, and you can really, really dive deep into everything regarding position. And you can create your own MPIs basically by looking at the sensors data. If there are some MPIs that you would like, yeah, please contact us. Please write it into the questions, because we want to make the LEOMO's MPIs the best that they can be. And we are very open to anything. So the idea is, like I know for myself, when I had the Type R, there was many updates and there's always new features added on. So it's not really limited. When is the Type S launching? I can't wait for it. It is launching on the 1st of November. So there's a 20% discount for the Type S, which is this one. It has turned into my favorite. I'm also an Android fan too. So if you want 20% off, you can get it. Just go to LEOMO.io's website. They're offering 20% off for the early supporters on Kickstarter. If you miss it, then you've got to pay full price. And, okay, Sunny has wrote back. Well, sometimes when the pelvis is stable at, say, 2.54 and the quads seem to get overloaded. That's very true. So Sunny's question was, sometimes when the pelvis is stable at, say, plus 25 millimeters forward, the quads seem to get overloaded. This is a good question, because this is why I really like the LEOMO compared to other bike kits, is because when I've done personal bike fits with systems, they get you on a bike, you ride very easy. You might do a little bit of effort and that's it. But with this, you can go out for 5-6 hours. I think my record is 9.5 hours of data recording on the Type S. The battery's really good. And what you find is, like you said, Sonny, that the quads do seem to get overloaded. And this is different for everyone. So the ideal situation in real world testing is to throw the system on, go out and go for a good, decent ride, do some climbs in the optimal position that you think it is, and see what happens when you do a climb, let's say after 4 hours, 2 big gear, how your body reacts. And with the online LEOMO software, you see it directly. So definitely this is one of the benefits, and you will see this with the LEOMO. Question, TT bike. Pelvic rotation, pelvic rock, best numbers are equal to road bike. This is a good question, because it's what I found is, I know for myself, I'm more stable on the road bike in comparison to the time trial bike. Victor, for an example, is far more stable on his time trial bike than his road bike. Obviously, you want to be as stable as possible and to minimize the numbers. And this is how I like to categorize the different systems. So with the Type R and the Type S, you have the MPIs. You can see all this data and you can see what's best for you. So you can go out and you can do the test. The examples I gave with the pelvic rock and pelvic rotation on the time trial bike and on the road bike, and you can see your numbers. That's fine, and you can make it as best as possible. And you're probably wondering if you've gone too far or not. And if you want to get just the extra, like 2% out of a rider or 1% out of a rider, that's where the LBS comes in. And with the LBS, when you see the raw number of the accelerometers and the gyroscopes of the sensors, then you can actually see how each sensor relates to each other. And you can really dive far deeper into it and see what is really optimal. Because you might be super stable and you might be compensating it through your leg angle range or your foot angle range. And that's what you don't want to do. So for example, when I showed, and I just want to make sure, I can't remember if I showed this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up something. So I showed this video before, and I'm going to show it again just to make you guys clear. So I know what we're doing, I'm showing. So here is, so I showed this before, right? So this is the motion of Victor's foot of leg. So the sensor's on his thigh. This is the top stroke, the sensor's here. And we're going to watch his downstroke. It is very, very smooth, as you can see. He's very, very good. Now, what I want to show is a bad position. So this is bad knee. So you see the dip. So what happens here is the top of the stroke, pedaling down, decelerates. So his leg decelerates here and then accelerates again. And this is what you really want to try and avoid. And this is what I meant before about where LEOMO's got their own MPIs and you can do a lot better. But when you want to fine tune it, this is where you see the real magic of the LBS. And I'm a huge fan of the LBS. I think this can do wonders, because this movement here, this is loss of power. Because what you're doing here, you're actually accelerating the leg twice. And this could be done for a number of reasons. And so to get back to your question, who asked me the question? I just want to see. I can't see it when I'm doing this. So the reason why this would be happening is if you look at his foot in that movement, he's ankling there. So this is when you see the raw data of the motion sensors. So his leg is going down, his leg's going down, and his ankle's going down. And what he's doing is, I'm going to just explain that face on, it might be easier. Okay, so what I mean by that is, you saw, so this goes back to Leonardo, when you asked me about pelvic rock and pelvic rotation. So you can find your optimal position in your pelvic rock and pelvic rotation to have it as minimal as possible. And you can do a serious test. But what you might find is if you're too stable, for example, I don't think it's too stable, but let's say you get a real good number for leg angle range, for example. As we saw there with Victor, he has a little deceleration in his leg. And when I looked into the data, what actually happens is when he pushes, and we saw his heel dropped, when he pushes with his thigh down, what happens is his foot, when your thigh goes down and you cannot hold the let's say he's pushing it, his calf is not strong enough to hold the power. What happens is when he's pushing, his heel goes down. So his leg pushes his heel down, this is the pedal axle, right? And it pushes his heel down. And when he gets over, so the pedal's at the top, when he gets around 3 o'clock in his heel and he has the power to push, he actually pushes with his calf and he decelerates with his leg and then accelerates again. And that's where the LBS really kicks in and you can really fine tune it. So to see if, back to you, Leonardo, to see, what the number should equal to, if you go too far, you should look at the other data. And this is really fine tuning, like the top, to get the 1% out of you. You can see how, if there's a deceleration in your legs or your foot, and you can see how it affects the other MPIs. So if you want to go that far, Leonardo, then yeah, you would have to get a LBS to look into that. And if you can, I'd really recommend getting the LBS because that's when you really get into it. John, can you overlay foot and or pelvic MPI in that example, please? I can, but because this is a webinar, what I actually did is I actually screen captured it. So it would be extremely difficult for me to do it, just show it just on my iPad. But you can. I'll just show you how you can. I don't know how good you're going to see the screen. You're not going to see it very good. But for the examples I gave, so a little introduction to the LBS. The examples I gave only showed one field, okay? And you can just click on another one. So I actually had them all hidden, so it was very clear to see them all. So the heel, I don't know if you can see this. So we'll just light this one up, and then we'll change it to, it's hard to show, left foot. And we're going to use the Giro Y, it's probably best to see. And then we can, so just want to show you, you can overlap it. You can with the, you can see 2 there. I've only added 2, and you can even slow down it. I'm really sorry, you're probably not going to see this very well. So you can overlap, you can add up to, I think it's 12 on my version. So you can overlap it, was it John, to look at the data, but I'm not going to show everything from Victor, that's for sure. How long is a good ride to get enough data to analyze with the type R or the type S? Yeah, my opinion on that is, yeah, what's best is, you know, that goes down to the individual rider. What I found is, if it's a professional, obviously you want them to ride as much as possible, because you want to, not that you want to break them, but I always like to, you know, when you give a good, when a rider does a good ride and he, you know, does everything, goes uphill, goes downhill, does a bit of high cadence, low cadence, some threshold work, and, you know, for me, when I look at someone's data, for me, it's the best thing is just throw the system on and get them to do an interval session. Let them come back and really nitpick through the data. And you see it in every scenario. And don't even tell them to do anything. Just tell them to do their normal at training. And that way you really get to see everything. And because the LEOMO can record for so long, yeah, everyone can do their training, do everything in their interval session. So I would recommend that you, I wouldn't tell them to do, you know, a certain fixture of time just to get them to do their normal interval training, and you will be able to see, yeah, all those points. Other questions? I'll talk at the moment of the decelerating would be interesting also. Okay, sweet. Pedal talk at the moment. Yeah, John. Seriously, the LBS is, for me, it's been a real eye opener on, you know, the actual motion of the rider, not just joint angle ranges, but the actual motion. And this is, for a bike fitter, a real guru. The LBS really shows everything. There's no hiding in the LBS. Do you use sensors on every ride? Good question. Do I use sensors on every ride? I use it on most rides, quite a lot. For me, it's just good to know. I like to, yeah, well, I'm a numbers guy. I like to see the data, obviously, and it's good. For me, it's, you know, maybe you guys have heard of like an SML2 reader, and, you know, when they're trying to sell that, and I'm a big fan of SML2, I do read it for certain training, but they try to sell it for like interval training, you know, when you really recover from a certain interval and you can start again. I wouldn't do it, I wouldn't use it for that reason. But the LEOMO is actually good for this also, for that reason, because when you're doing like a strength session, and this is one of the best things about the LEOMO, for using it in training quite often. So let's say if I'm going to do 3 times 10 minutes, 50 cadence, 380 watts, and just to build strength. Just a session, you go out there and do strength. So you have your leg angle ranges and your foot angle ranges. So it's a range of movement of your leg and the range of movement of your foot. And, you know, the first one, the numbers should be symmetrical. Now, I'm fitted pretty good on the bike. You know, I've used this quite a lot, so my leg angle range is very symmetrical. And after a while, when you're fatigued, you actually see that, you know, you might, your calf won't be able to handle the power. And what happens is you get a lot of ankling, and then once you get ankling in one foot, then if you get ankling in one foot, so one foot is ankling and the other is not, then it changes your leg angle range, because that leg has to reach further down. And so your leg angle range will increase when that happens. And that's a fatigue sign. So for me, when I do a strength session, like the example I gave before, yeah, I would pretty much stop if my leg angle ranges change, and I'll probably lower the wattage so my body can do it, and more stay within that range, that wattage range, to be able to finish the session. And then I would know for next time, okay, 10 is a bit too long. After that, you lose form, and stick within ranges. So with the sensors on every ride, this particular ride here, I do like to use the sticky on the back pelvis, or just place it under the bib. Do you use the sticky things for the back and pelvis? So when you put the sensors on, the foot ones, I have to, depending the shoes I use, if it's my shoes, I actually got to stick them on my shoes because I don't have laces. But there's a little part where you just slip them in, and they clip in very well. So the shoe ones don't need any, use the stickers to mount them. Now on your thighs, LEOMO does say to use the stickers on your thighs. I don't do it. Never done it. Every time they test me, they always use it. But I've done stages in the Giro with them just under my bib shorts. They stay on. They really do not come off. Okay, my bib shorts may be tight because it's for racing, but they don't come off. When you put them on your pelvis, yes, I always use a sticker because they do move. So the sticker, they stick very well and doesn't. How much does feel comfort comes into play when doing bike adjustment? Comfort is everything, in my opinion. You have to hold that position, and if you're not comfortable on the bike, you're not going to ride well, especially if you're doing long rides, long races. So in that sense, I would, definitely get comfortable, find that position where you're comfortable, find out what leg angle range that is, what foot angle range that is, what pelvic angle that is, and make that your bike position. That's if you're comfortable, you're going to ride well, and if you're not comfortable, you will break early and normal. That's what you want to do. You want to keep your form as much as possible, and your position as ideal, as long as possible. And I would not ride something that's not comfortable. Another question: do you do any motion comparisons between indoor on the trainer versus outside on the same bike? Do you notice any differences? You do. Good question. The reason being, and just to open the can of worms even more, indoor versus outdoor, there's a big difference if you're using rollers or if I'm using the SRM bike. Now, the SRM bike has a super heavy flywheel. So the benefit of the SRM bike is, and I love training on this, is when you're training on the SRM bike and you're pedaling and you stop pedaling, flywheel has so much momentum because of the weight. It's like you're on the road and you stop pedaling and you're just rolling. So when you start again, it's not like you're on those cheap, I don't know if you've ridden on cheap home trainers like 10 years ago, the magnetic ones, when you stop, it stops, and you really got to wind up. And this really affects how you ride on the bike, and how you get going again. And also when you're doing intervals, it just doesn't have good feel. So these cheap magnetic home trainers, you really see the data changes when you use something like that compared to an SRM bike. So the SRM bike is very good in the sense where it has the same feel as riding outside. I'm a huge fan of, had it for ages, but you do, because of this, you see a difference on rollers. So I've got some Tax rollers, the Galaxy, the ones move forwards and back. I see things different there. And also, I've tried to incorporate quite a lot with training on the Tax also, because I felt that this really helps with my cadence. So when you're looking at dead spot scores, I didn't have the best dead spot scores when I first used the LEOMO. I noticed I was actually extremely bad. So what I did is I got myself a set of Tax rollers. Never used rollers in my whole life. Turned 37 years old, got a pair of rollers. Thought I was going to die on them. But I used it every day just for half an hour with hypoxia mask. So I was doing two things at once. And I was really trying to improve my dead spot scores. So my first goal was to improve my dead spot scores with the rollers because there is a difference. there is a difference using a set of rollers as compared to the SRAM bike, because as soon as you don't have power to push, there's no resistance against your foot going down, then the motion is totally different. And this is what can really improve dead spot score. And after about, I think it was like 3 weeks of using the rollers, and Anton, this gets to your question right now. So Anton asked, will you always have a dead spot score, or can it be eliminated to 0 or 1? My record is 30 minutes at 0, dead spot score. And that was using intensive rollers, the Tux Galaxy rollers. So every morning I use the rollers, and yeah, you can definitely improve it, that's for sure. And it's more to be aware, because what I found, especially with myself, is your dead spot score is, mine was horrible. I think my very first ride was something like, I think it was like when I first had the LEOMO, I put on my computer, I didn't even look at it. I just wanted to get real data for myself. So I know on my right leg I had like 28 or 27 degree dead spot score, 28 on my right leg, and my left leg was okay. It was like 7 or 9 DSS, and yeah, after a while, yeah, with training on the rollers, it really improved my dead spot score. And to another question, what is your dead spot score in the example on the stage in the Delta when riding the bunch? Well, I won't say bunch, but yeah, normally when I'm racing, it's around, I would say, when you say bunch, yeah, I'd like to say it's probably around 1.2 and then 3 maybe on my right leg. My right leg is worse than my left leg. So that would be my dead spot score. I use rollers with resistance 800 watts and flywheel. Here is a review. Thank you. Look, so seems like one of the attendants is using very special rollers. So Capovello, I have to have a look at that. Yeah, there's a very big difference between home trainer, indoor trainer, rollers. They all they play a difference. It's also, your dead spot scores also change if you're riding uphill, if you're on the flat. You would think, well, I thought that your dead spot score would be worse if you're pushing a big gear. But what actually happens is your dead spot, it's easier to have a better dead spot score at a low resistance and spinning because you're more fluent. Huge message from Luke. Specifications of the rollers. Thank you. I like stuff like this. So definitely look into it. Thanks, Luke. So, Joseph added in for closing. Any questions or discussions you'd like to talk further, please email support@leomo.io. Send them, or you can ask me on Twitter. I like to be on Twitter, so yeah, send your questions. Once again, support@leomo.io. Yeah, ask me on Twitter, email LEOMO. Hope you enjoyed my first webinar. I promise my next one will be better, and hopefully my next one will be, I hope LEOMO accepts it and I get to do another one. Thanks, Dean, for coming. Probably should have, if you have any suggestions what you would like another one to be on, or if you want an example of a training ride, for example, or example of a race, and basically me going through a training ride and a race to show why the numbers happen in different scenarios, uphill, downhill, things like that. Thank you for the nice comments. I can't get, hopefully the next ones get better. So, any other questions? Support@leomo.io. Ask me on Twitter. And yeah, hopefully we can do more of these. If you have one of these, hope you enjoy it. It's good fun. It's good. For me, it's like a Game Boy for riding. And yeah, good luck with your cycling. It is off season now, so I'm going on holidays tomorrow. And yeah, and hopefully we get back. Could you look into a live fitting using the Type R or type S? Yes, I will do that, Sonny. That's a good one, actually. So thank you, and yeah, till next time, stay safe.